Street Fighter versus Mortal Kombat.
Yeah,
Is that a thing you'd even ever want to do, even if the politics of it could align?
I'd have to entertain it. Have to entertain it.
Hello everyone, Michael Martin here from Yahoo Esports, back with another I Got Next this week. Just a reminder, we'll get to some comments from last week's topic at the end of this video, so stick around for that. But for now, I have a couple questions for you. Who would win in a fight between Sub-Zero or Ryu? How about Scorpion or Ken? I ask because I think Mortal Kombat might be what Street Fighter needs to make the series fun again. Yes, this topic has been talked about for probably as long as both series have been around, and it recently resurfaced in an IGN Unfiltered interview with Mortal Kombat co-creator Ed Boon. When asked if Capcom called and said he'd get to do the game, meaning NetherRealm, Boon replied,
I'd have to entertain it. Have to entertain it.
Look behind me and you'll see I'm the biggest diehard Street Fighter fan. I love fighting games in general. Yes, I'm not really a Mortal Kombat kind of guy, but the idea of a Mortal Kombat versus Street Fighter game really intrigues me right now because of the stigma surrounding Street Fighter V. We want to get fans hyped again about Street Fighter. And in its year since its release, Street Fighter V has seen improvements. I think we can all agree to that in some areas, but there are some big lingering issues, and one of them is content for the non-hardcore fighting game player. Yes, there are other large issues that should be taken care of, but this is a big one. Boon and NetherRealm, they know how to create and market a fighting game for the masses. Don't believe me? Let's take a look at the numbers. Within 6 months of its release in 2015, Mortal Kombat X sold over 5 million copies. To date, Street Fighter V at last count has hit roughly 1.5 million in sales, and looks like it's kind of stalled out at this point. So from a sales standpoint, this could be a boon for Street Fighter and its brand. People have wanted to see this crossover for years. Yes, the question remains, which actual game does a crossover take place in? For the sake of this argument, and for the Boon interview, I'll say put Street Fighter in the Mortal Kombat universe, let NetherRealm do its thing. Capcom had its shot with Tekken, didn't really pan out. Who wouldn't want to see Ryu's head get torn off? I'm not sure I want to see that, but a game like this might convert MK players to Street Fighter or vice versa. It feels like a win-win to me. Fans get to play out this fantasy of who would win in a fight. Street Fighter would earn some of that positive credibility back and get fans hyped again. Would it please everyone? Absolutely not. Boon knows it. Quote,
There's part of me that's like, that would be such a cool dream. And then there's another part of me that goes, there's no way that would satisfy everybody.
He's right. But I think it would be fun to see, and at least fun to talk about. So tell me what you think. Is now the right time for a Mortal Kombat Street Fighter crossover? Can Mortal Kombat give Street Fighter that positive credibility that it feels like it needs right now? Let me know in the comments or on Twitter at Bizarro_Mike 1Z2Rs, and let's get to the comments from last week. Alright, so last week we asked, is playing Street Fighter V top tier characters the only way to win? And we have watched players like Xian struggle with Fang to a degree. Daigo is struggling, bottom feeding with Ryu. Let's get to these comments. Marco Man X says, the metagame of Street Fighter V isn't balanced, so picking a low tier isn't just picking a weaker character, it's picking a character that stands no chance in a game about offense, frame advantages, and pressure. Zoning is borderline useless, defensive play is useless, great damage is nerfed to the point where there are instances that look like you should have taken the first hit as opposed to eating the block string, and if you want to excel, you have to adapt to the offensive-based metagame and have to pick a character that benefits from that meta as well. Great comment. I think it summarizes a lot of how I feel about the game right now. With no invincible meterless reversals, Ryu has to play, I play very defensively, and I think that puts me at a distinct disadvantage against a lot of characters right now, especially the ones that have gotten better in Season 2. I haven't been able to adapt. Maybe that's on me. Look, I'm bad. I know it. But when I see other players like Daigo himself struggling, it speaks to me. It tells me that either Capcom made a mistake with this character, or maybe Daigo just needs to pick a different character. OKT Chow says, Shoto crybabies are the worst. Go main a punching bag like Birdie or Fang to learn what is true low tier. You are absolutely right. Worst. We're the worst. Just give us back that invincible DP, please. Coco says, I've chosen the jury life. I cry every time. I'm not sure you're going to be crying in Season 2 as much. Keep an eye on Infiltration, because it sounds like Jury is his bae. Colin Shorett says, I admire Daigo wanting to stick with Ryu in order to play for fun, but if he wants to win, he may not have a choice. It feels like the difference in ability between tiers is just too great to ignore in this game. With that, I think there's a responsibility with certain players. Daigo may be in that 1% that he doesn't have to worry about things like this. He can play for fun. He'll probably still succeed at some level. But I think there are a lot of players who aren't going to succeed if they continue to play certain characters. And they have to worry about these things of whether it's playing for fun or playing for their livelihood. Those things don't always mesh. So some players are going to have to make that decision. Kid Matsuda says, I've been playing Laura since day one and she was trash. I don't like to hear that everyone should play a top tier and therefore pick Laura. That sounds really disgusting to hear. I don't think Laura's trash. I don't think she was ever really trash. I think she was overshadowed by other characters, maybe like Armika. I think we saw some really good Laura players, and it seems like now in Season 2's meta, she's arguably even better. Cypher says, why didn't you cry when Ryu was top tier Season 2? Makes no sense. Because he was top tier, why would we cry about that? Mike Capone 97 says, I believe people should stick to their character even if they're low tier. People say Nash is bottom tier and Urien is top tier. If you watch Bonchan versus Nemo, you would think these characters are pretty close in their level because of how well Bonchan plays Nash. A character is only good as their players. I don't necessarily agree with that. Some characters are just, they're bad, they're bottom tier, and that's just the way it is. If you're one of the most talented guys in the world, you're gonna make that character look good, but the average player will not. That's why you see Xian doing well with Fang. That's why you saw Bonchan improve with Nash, because you know what? He was not good early on. He played Ryu, and he looked flustered. He switched to Nash, picked up his game in the second half of this Capcom Pro Tour last year, and I think you saw it. But these are some of the best players in the world we're talking about. When you're talking like just average Joe Schmo like me, if I picked up Nash, he would look bad. I'm not saying Nash is bottom tier necessarily. I think people are still doing some good things with him. I think they need to adjust to Season 2. Anyway, thank you for those comments. Be sure to leave comments for this week's topic on YouTube. And of course, you can tweet at me at Bizarro_Mike, 1Z2Rs. And we'll see you next week.